we were speaking about the concept of love, and the concept of love being revived between, especially the Muslim society and overall between people. There's a hadith by the Prophet ﷺ, لن تدخلوا الجنة حتى تؤمنوا ولن تؤمنوا حتى تحابوا. He said, you will not be entering paradise until you believe. حتى تؤمنوا. You will not be believing or fully believing or completing your faith حتى تحابوا, unless you love one another. أولا أدلكم على شيء إذا فعلتم تحاببتم. I will tell you, or I will give you an advice that something if you do, you will love one another, is spread salam. Salam alaikum between you. Spread the salutation of salam between you. So the concept of love is very important in the human society, generally speaking, between Muslims, 100%, no doubt. Now, the problem is that I'm not going to be defining for some reasons the definition of love or what is love, but I want to be practical with it, meaning that from personal observation that the concept of love might have been distorted with some things, probably maybe because of inputs that caused that. Mixing love with some gestures and some ideas that might destroy the concept of love. For example, is love desire? Is love desire? Or does desire intoxicate love maybe? If it does that to love. And the concept of believing that certain thing is an act of love, but it's not. And if the Nabi ﷺ gives this value to love, it means 100%. It's very important to have love. Imagine one could not be completing his faith or implementing fully his faith until he experiences that with his Muslim brothers. Now, with love comes the concept of expressing it, the expressing of love. To show that the love is activated in society or in the family, whatever it is, there are some practicalities that come with it that preserves this love, that thrives this love, that makes this love expand and be activated and gives its best in the society that's in. There is a hadith, subhanAllah, where one of the companions of the Prophet said that he told the Prophet that I love this man for the sake of Allah. He told the Prophet. So the Prophet asked him, did you tell him? He said, no. Go and tell him. Go and tell him. So it's a prophetic advice to express. Now the thing is, do we have preservations when it comes to expressing that to one another? And is it not valuable enough in the eyes of the beholders to express the fact that I do love you as a person, as much as, well, let me do the things that are considered as expressions of love or practicalities of love in society, or for example, I can serve you without telling you that. Does this affect any much the concept of love and its presence? Does this cause for a pillar of love not to be activated, meaning that this type of expression may close a gap that, if not, will be opened and fulfilled in some other way? And listen, you listen to someone say you he loves you genuinely, authentically from his heart. So we have the preservations. Are there preservations, caveats that have been created societally, whether voluntarily or involuntarily, unintentionally, that kept some sort of preservation, maybe recognizing the concept of shame, haya, in a way that's not right? So it became a habit not to express it by words, to just do the act, for example, and that's it. So one level of it is skipped towards acting upon that. Sometimes you see, for example, sometimes, one might argue with someone and say, don't you love me? So that person will say, why are you asking me this question? Why, I did this for you, did that for you, did that. Then that person might let it go, believing that, okay, generation where, for example, there is no verbal expression of love rather than immediate practicality in expressing love. Now, it becomes, of course, a habit. And of course, it becomes a habit, it becomes a perception that this is how love should be. You understand? Where, for example, then if one verbally expresses love, it becomes strange and weird. It feels cheesy a bit, to express that. Now, are these reservations there, and how can we solve them in light of speaking of this fact? Also, being caught up between sometimes people claiming that they're loving you, people claiming that they're loving, while the direct result of love is not being efficiently acted, and sometimes acting upon ways that are opposing the concept of love itself. So, for example, if we focus a lot on the concept of, for example, keeping our children safe, we keep them safe. That's how we express our love to them. So then if that's a value, nothing, but not giving much attention on the techniques that we use and the behavior, the patterns that we use when we want to keep them safe. For example, taking for granted the concept of maybe invasion of some private areas of the children. When I say private areas, I mean areas that might affect the dignity of that child, if not preserved well, if not taken permission from. You take permission from. Maybe you need to take permission from before acting up, just to keep and preserve dignity of that personality. Not only children now is involved, but even friends, even whatever it is, wives, for example, maybe spouses, for example. What I mean is that what I want to explore, I'm not talking about the authorizations. That's with some other specialized people can talk about what's permissible and what's not. I'm just talking about consideration of people's feeling and recognizing what hurts their feelings, even if your values, kind of gives you the privilege that you might have more maturity, more access, more life experience. With that also, never skip the fact that if you say you love someone, you're making a claim and you're passing a pattern to that other party about what love is. You're passing it, whether you like it or not, and it becomes an expectation. So do not depend only on the fact that my intention is good and I just meant to protect it. So some people might use this argument while, for example, hitting their children, smacking them up, and saying that I did that because I love you. For example, now whether this is present nowadays or no, but I'm just saying that if you do that, you may have been opposing the concept of love itself, because the consideration of feelings should be there when you're addressing even the things that you feel that are red lines that should not be crossed, for example. So the thing is, there are things that gives indications to the other party upon whether this person loves me or not. And why is this thing important, guys? It's very important because as much as human beings are beings that are going to be accountable one day by their Lord, meaning that they do have capabilities and enablements that give them this context of being accountable. Something very major, by the way. Something very, very important. It's why we're here, actually. It's sometimes someone gets scared with this concept, but we are accountable. Since you're accountable, meaning you are enabled, or you have some sort of enablement. But on the other hand, as much as that's true, as much as human beings are weak and fragile in some sense, and in need of being treated with kindness and treated with tenderness, and reaching out to that human being in the most kind way in order for him to accept the message that you're giving him. So, of course, we can see this a lot in the Qur'an and Sunnah, but I'm not going to go into that. If you don't do that, you might hold one party that might be someone that is directly affected with your actions into being vulnerable. And that's an issue that especially families should be considerate of. If you open the door of not caring much upon the performance of love, in a way, I'm not saying to go very far with that, but having a balanced approach in performing the love, you don't want to open a door for someone at home, for example, to be weak and vulnerable. Since the expectation by nature is organic, that someone expects love, for example, from the inside, then not being the inside, not being much attentive with that, you might have been opening a door and a gap into that child, that whatever it is, to be now not expecting, receiving, and having some sort of response agent that's open, that can be from the outside. You understand me? So it's very important to consider these things and give the love that is in your hands to give, and you should be giving, not being selfish where you're taking things for granted and saying to yourself, well, I did such and such, that's enough. No more to do. Having emotions, being kind and tender, and caring about, appreciating feelings is something very important, guys. That should be also there. And you'd be surprised sometimes where, think about yourself. Think about yourself. If you feel that you're strong enough and you're perfect enough, that, well, I'm not receiving the love that you guys are talking about for the last, years, well, something might be wrong with you. Maybe there's a part that's shut down on you, maybe. But we've seen in life, sometimes you get somehow, not shocked, not surprised, but kind of not expect that someone may have a breaking point because of that. Maybe you find that in yourself. You find that all you are missing through your life is, for example, someone who's genuinely listening to you. Something that we see that people also who are old enough, let me say, that you think now he's independent, but even that person, while he might look okay from the outside, but he has something from the inside that's not being expressed. Genuine listening. Al-istimaa' sadiq. Someone that comes and listens to you genuinely, authentically, and attentively, without having two brains in his head, without being with you and you know that person is not with you. And sometimes, not necessarily someone might have an agenda always, or a bad agenda always, but we feel sometimes that some listening is not authentic. It's not an authentic listening. And it's frustrating for human beings sometimes to be in that position. So that's how important it is, guys. In our modern times where these jobs, alhamdulillah, these jobs are there, these entertainments are there, the leisure is there, one might get, indulged with these enjoyments of life and forget the origin of the human being relationships. Meaning that all relationships become, ma'al-asaf shadid, they have no soul, there's no spirit in this relationship. It becomes all for, we can say for this dunya later on from a faithful perspective, but it becomes all for the material. You feel like relationships become like that. There's no longer genuine relationship between people. Well, they seeing each other because they love each other. They're not seeing each other because they want something from each other necessarily. For example, not always we're sitting down, for example, discussing about business, or I'm waiting for some news that has to do with me escalating in something or getting some money. I am here to see you as a brother. I'm here to sit with my father, not to discuss things that about the material. I'm here because I love my father. I want to listen to my father. I want to listen to him. The father sits with his children. Stop being too measurable, like you're following up with KPIs with them. Sit with them, listen to them. Share your souls with them. Have you ever experienced true empathy where you're listening to your child, and also for children, by the way, they're listening to their fathers without being judgmental. It's an authentic and genuine relationship between human beings. That's something that we should not be forgetting about in this life. Alhamdulillah, we have all these blessings around us, but we should never forget that end of the day we're humans. We are not machines and robots. We don't utilize each other merely for the concept of utilization. We don't see each other as utilizations only. It's like a relationship. It's a business relationship. Business relationship. So that thing that should be there. We focus also on families. When we talk, families also should learn. When I go see my sibling, when I go see my cousin, I'm going to see him because he's my cousin. I'm going to see him because he's my blood. Silat al-Rahim. Not necessarily every visit should have a certain maslaha, a certain benefit utilization. Not necessarily, I'm saying it's wrong. I'm saying not necessarily. When you call him to say Salam Alaikum. Make him feel that you're caring about him. That's something that should be revived if it's not there. It's very important to have this between people. Now, if people were like that, even the advices you give will be listened to. Even the, you know what I mean? You will not sound very authoritative if you like that with people. Why? Because when the advice comes from a heart that has true empathy, the second party, if not arrogant, accepts it. Why? Because it's genuine. It has no will of having any benefit from it. You're doing it because you want the good for that person. Now, one might argue, for example, does this thing exist? Because some people might argue, come on, human beings are greedy by nature, always should be there an utilization for the good that they do. Of course, he's coming here, he's calling me for a reason. Come on, there should not be no reason. See how much people can go far with this skepticism that they have because they lost hope in something called a true, authentic, loving relationship. You understand me? So we don't want to reach that. We don't want it to a level that we feel that this is no longer there. Of course, again, just to remind myself and you, nothing wrong with having a relationship that have a flavor of utilization where you guys benefit from it. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying don't kill this side that has empathy, especially with people where it's more natural to have it like that. For example, your family, your wife, your children. The concept of clearing out, I call it the ambiguous ghost house between people. One of the reasons that love could be something that's suppressed, and not only suppressed, something that's fearful. It becomes something that, explicit content somehow, where you don't wanna even open the door for love because too much ambiguity is there between me and that other party. Too much boundaries are there that, number one, should I cross this boundary or not? Number two, if I cross it, will I lose this person? Or maybe I will look nosy and an intruder. It becomes like a game, like an internal game. That's something that again I got this from an interview. It's like the worst hidden secret between people, maybe, or some people that they cannot express their love because they are fearful of doing that. Maybe they had bad experiences. Maybe they don't understand how things are anymore. You understand me? We hear of something called love now. Is there a loving relationship? No. Why is there too much ambiguity between these parties? Why is there too much, for example, when they talk, they're talking in a symbolic sense. There is no clarity in talking. Why is there expectation that if I'm gonna talk in this symbolic sense, I'm gonna be understood? No need to further, to clarify further. And it's a very sensitive subject, by the way. It has deep meanings that I don't know how much should be exposed or not, but let me just give enough of it, which is when ambiguity is there, again, vulnerability is there. And when vulnerability is there, control of the narrative is there. That's all I'm going to say. So the narrative there in love becomes something that's, untouchable. but we're human beings, and sometimes, subhanAllah, you find yourself losing yourself all of a sudden. Why? 20, 30, 40, 50 days of holding yourself back and your emotions, all of a sudden you burst out seeing a stranger maybe. You see a waiter in a restaurant and you start blabbering with all these problems you have. Why? Because you're suppressing for a long time. You're not having someone who's listening to you, by the way. And you are full of relationships that are like someone I know expressed, it's like plastic. It's like plastic. It's not a natural way of having relationships with people. Now, we're saying this now not only to observe and say claiming that everyone has a problem, but I'm just saying that maybe this is an area that should be addressed when too much boundaries for love is there, for example, and also when there's too much focus also in work and business and stuff like that. People might be caught up in this and forgetting the natural relationship that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them together, being and having this empathy. Now, about clearing up the ambiguity, it's always brave, of course, and courageous when you feel that you're comfortable with someone. You don't have to be in a hurry. Yeah, he does not have to be in a hurry. Even, by the way, some might be a strange analogy, but when you go propose, for example, to someone you're going to marry, it's not going to be love. When you go and engage, for example, it's going to be love all of a sudden. There's going to be some time of recognition, so you know that other party, what he's about, what does he want in his life. Same thing goes, by the way, with colleagues and friends and communities and societies and neighbors. So you need time to recognize one another. Recognition of one another, recognizing the principles of one another helps if in the future, subhanAllah, you guys click together, you become a community. It helps preserve that love. And that's an area that some people, by the way, might be shy and embarrassed to address. And I don't know why, but is it fear of rejection? Is it complicating the fact of how much of privacy should not be exposed and how much of it should be exposed? But then again, we have the blessing of asking questions. You can ask the question and say, for example, is it okay if I ask you such and such? Is it okay if I ask you such and such? And why would someone try to do that with people? Because, like I said, when you feel the blessing of being a human being, it's a blessing to be a human. By the way, children of Adam, that Allah owns subhanahu wa ta'ala, you perceive people as being gifts also. You perceive that in human beings. So you are open to have good relationships with people. And it's not wrong to ask whether is it okay to do this or that, not being someone who's, having some sort of obsessive compulsive disorder, no, but you're doing that to have a natural way of conducting with that person and building trust. It's recognition. So that's something also that we should be comfortable with. Are there people, for example, who might be arrogant, not opening up? Yes, there is a type of people who might be shy and embarrassed to say that he does not want an intimate relationship with someone. For example, I don't want to be more friends. I mean, enough friends that I have. Maybe that's not wrong, and we should be accepting for that. By the way, you understand? Should be mature enough, but at the same time, yes. So, inshallah, this is not present. Inshallah, we hope it's not present much, but also arrogance is an enemy of love. Someone who has arrogance and he feels that you don't have the privilege even to ask me questions. You don't have the privilege to say Salam Alaikum. Who are you to say Salam Alaikum? That type of attitude also should not be there in some party. But the risk is always going to be there that there might be people like that, by the way. They don't like the fact of love. They don't want love in their life, and may Allah guide us all. And this is something that's not natural, of course, in a human being to be abstained from love. And depending, by the way, the arrogant might be depending on something else, which is lust and desire. That's the thing that keeping him, active. But this is something that's very healthy and causes depression maybe. In the context of Iman and faith, we preserve love by conducting good deeds. Because sins, al-ithm, Haram does affect love. It does, because it opens the door of shaitan. It does that, and it now opens the door for desire to have access to your system. When that happens now, it might shake the love in you, because now your values are being affected. Your will is being affected. Your priorities are being changed. Maybe the haram that someone does opens the door for a different type of relationship, different type of friendship. Now you need a certain type of relationship to sustain the haram you're doing, because you need to utilize and control certain things that are feeding into that haram, and then it affects your friendships. God forbid, it becomes like that. You no longer need the pure love. You want something that serves that mission of serving that haram. So staying away from haram and having a clean life gives you the privilege to be pure enough to have the pure people around you and to be someone who has pure love. It helps you preserve that with Allah. Like we said, the enemies of love, or some of the enemies of love, might be arrogance, 100%. Also greed, tama', greed that it's never enough for someone to ask for the dunya. And I'm not talking about someone who wants to be a successful person and tries to make his life better. That's not talking about that person. But I'm talking about someone who is never satisfied with whatever he has. Whoever person he sees, that person becomes a chance for that desire for him to get. And that's not nice. That's not nice. And that's when people, by the way, when people say that, they talk in a figure of speech probably, that this person, in Arabic they say maslachi. You only want, this word maslachi? You heard this word in our culture, maslachi? When say maslachi, they mean that he only thinks about his benefit. He only, you know what I mean? That's all he thinks about, is maslaha.
I think in school I've heard it.
Yeah. Okay? But what they mean, there's nothing wrong with someone caring about his benefit. Nothing wrong with it. Maybe he's too active. It's fine. It's fine. Some personalities are like that. They lean more maybe towards that. Maybe they are fulfilled with love at home. That's why when they're outside, they're always thinking about how they make business, because they're house. They feel they have this done. You know what I mean? But even though one should not be greedy. There are maybe thin lines maybe between those two, or maybe some differences. But one should not be greedy to experience love with people also, and to recognize that person in front of you is not like an ATM machine. It's not an ATM machine. Especially children with fathers, for example. Don't act with your father. You never see him and call him unless you want money or you need financials. Come on, say Salam Alaikum to him. Like I said, because you miss him, because you love him. Maybe it does not matter to him to give you whatever he has, but at least give him that appreciation of existence and appreciation of him being your father. Because of these things, guys, problems like fights over inheritance, for example, fights over money in families, even between friends, by the way. I'm not saying that some people, they should be treated with some sort of law. Nothing wrong with that, fundamentally speaking, but I'm speaking about when these things control our environments. We should not do this. We should not do this in our environments and our state of mind when we're dealing with each other. When you love, guys, love is healthy. Love between people is healthy. And if it was not, again, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would not emphasize on that. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said to Mu'adh, Wallahi inni la uhibbuk. Why Allah, I swear by Allah, I love you. He said that to us. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. It's natural, it's organic, it's pure. It brings the best out of you. That's the beauty of love. The beauty of love, that it brings the best version of you. And not to mention the other privileges. Makes you feel safe in your environment, you can accept it. This is something that might be rooted in you. You want to be accepted. So it gives you that. It gives you that. That makes me say also here that one of the jobs and one of the duties that might be there on families is to have more eligibility to be accepting than the stranger. That's why they're family. So the amount of love, the quality and the quantity of love in families should be revived, where the acceptance should be more, because it should be built in. You accept from your son the mistakes that you do not accept from the stranger. Why? Because you're his father. You're his father. See, the closer you get, the more accepting you should be. the scale should be different. And here's why also the concept of love is important, because it gives you the ability to accept. Now, I don't know if this is a hadith where it says, حُبُّكَ لِلشَّيْءِ يُعْمِيكَ وَيُصُمُّكَ وَيُعْمِيكَ, or the fact that you love something makes you blind. But in a certain context, of course, you should have the faith that grounds that love. You should not accept the haram, for example. But the love does not make you accept the haram. It makes you perform in a way towards that haram that might not be harsh. It gives you that. Why? Because you see that, for example, a child of yours, when you see him doing the haram, you're not perceiving in the eyes of someone who is a punishment agent there. You don't want to punish him. You want to save him from that haram. Now, saving him from that haram becomes an act of empathy. It's different now. You perceive him, for example, as a doctor. You're like his doctor now. You're having this empathy. You're telling him, I'm accepting you, but I'm not accepting the haram you're doing. It's very different, guys. Very different and judgmental mind. Very different. And you don't act immediately in harsh and violent way. It makes you as much as, having this mercy and having this dignity and respect for the child, for example. So it gives you that. So it's all about directing the love. If you direct the love in the right way, then love works for you. It does not work against you. You don't have to get rid of love in order to have stable relationships. No, that's not right. Keep it, utilize it, and even between, if there are family members or whatever it is, they're doing things that are not pleasant, you can utilize that love. It brings the best way in saying no to the haram. It makes you creative in going into the road of commanding this is haram or not, but the way, the techniques are different because it comes out of love. It comes out of love. Similarly, and the best analogy I made for our Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you love yourself, you will not love sinning. If you take it as loving yourself, you will not love sinning. Because you love yourself, you're not sinning. So the mercy, the best out of you comes out, and you try to help yourself and support it to get rid of the haram, for example, in that context. So you maintain the child in you. The good thing about love, it maintains the child in you. It keeps you in that state of mind of feeling light and feeling like a child always. Again, just lastly here, like I said, recognition before performance. Nothing wrong with that. It's something that's wise. Any relationship you want to start, it's okay to recognize one another. Validate one another's feelings. Know each other's perceptions. Don't be in a hurry and then you have this friendship for 1 year, 2 years, and a simple fight happens and khalas, friendship goes away. No. Know each other. Take your time. There's no problem. Nothing wrong with that. Show that other party that if I'm not willing to have you as a good friend in my life, I will not be wasting my time asking you these questions. I will not be wasting my time caring about your feelings, for example. I will not be wasting my time. What's your name, Papa? Uday. Now, Uday, for example, he's sitting like this, huh? In my culture, let me say, sitting like this, it's not like this example, huh? Sitting like this might mean that he's angry with me. Maybe, I'm just saying, no, it's not true. Maybe. But if I love Uday, or I see a potential good friendship with him, I'll be asking Uday, what do you mean by this? So, notice how I should be comfortable expressing my feelings, and he should be giving me the security to ask me questions. This type of relationship should be between humans and family members. I am comfortable asking the question, and you are giving me you're secure enough from the inside and giving me you're peaceful enough with me to accept the question. We have no issue with me asking these questions. You're not insecure around me because I'm asking these questions. So both parties should be open for each other in that sense, because again, if I don't care about you, I will not be asking about you. Same thing, by the way, to end this, I say sometimes that even the people that you get angry with, by the way, Sometimes your anger comes from love. Because you're angry, it shows that you're caring. Or sometimes some stranger does a certain gesture on the road, you skip it. Sometimes. Why can you skip it? You don't care about that. You don't care about it. But the people you care about are the people who give it to you sometimes. Yeah? So why am I saying this again? When there is a room for expression, love is preserved. We might have problems probably in households and others, that there is no comfort zone of talking. They cannot sit and talk to each other and express. For example, you did this last time. I still love you, but can you explain to me? What's the enemy of that? Again, might be arrogance. Someone who does not want to confront. Maybe he has a weak personality. Maybe it's a old problem he had that someone made him too shy and embarrassed that he cannot confront anything. Maybe that, okay, maybe it needs some kind of treatment. But in other contexts, it might be because someone does not want to open up, and the other party feels like, okay, if this is the case, then what's the use of talking? What's the use of talking with someone who's not confronting, not willing to express his true self? You understand me? So there should be work there. It's not natural to be in that type, not having societal relationship where you can openly express yourself. We need that as humans. We need that. You see today, for example, I'm not saying this is wrong. There are clinics that are psychological, psychologists and other things like life coaches. It's not wrong. But sometimes I say that what if these jobs were offered at home for free instead of going outside and having to pay for them? Maybe that person, if he had a safe zone at home in talking and for example, if I do a mistake as a child and I feel safe enough with my father to go and open up, Baba, I did this and this. I feel so safe and secure with my father. My father will never tell anyone. He will not judge me. He will support me, probably, to get rid of this problem. You understand me? Or else, he will tell me, Baba, I don't know how to help you, but that safety, I'm very privileged, and that's a blessing if I have that safety at home. Maybe it's not a father. Maybe it's a good sister. Someone has a good sister. She's a good listener, for example. You understand me? So sometimes these jobs that are from the outside, that again we might be spending money on, we can provide this environment internally at our home, for example. When my wife is comfortable with me enough to talk, for example, I gave her a safe zone and I give her this confidence to talk. She does not need maybe to talk to much of strangers outside because I'm giving her that comfort zone. Unless and until, and this is a caveat that I give, notice that maybe it's wise enough not to open up about everything with close members. Not because they're bad, not because they're not willing to listen, it's because of their nature. Maybe someone, because he's my father, or because she's my wife, or because he's my husband, maybe it's not appropriate to talk about that. That's something that should be studied too. It should be considered. That's not wrong. But what I mean, generally speaking, I have room to be myself, to be my version, to be my best version in my household, between my family, between my friends. I do have this zone that gives me love. The love gives me that feeling of being accepted. When I feel accepted, the best out of me comes out. I'm done with my lecture. We'll just have an active discussion with you guys. First of all, anyone has a comment? Abdul sorry.
Nothing much.
Okay.
I was just thinking about today's khutbah, where they're talking about certain
Silence.
situations. Yeah.
Yes.
Keeping silence.
Yeah.
Just trying to see how to connect.
How to connect them? Very good. I'll come into that. You have an additional thing? No? Uday. Brother.
My name is Mohammed Mikhail.
Yes.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Nice.
I don't have a question, I have some observations.
Good. Give me
Observations.
I've been doing this for 7 years. I'm an auditor, by the way.
Okay.
Oh, that's what it brings out my left brain to act. Anyways, tell me. Very technical word. Yes.
The topics that you touched towards the end with regards to the expression of love,
Yes.
the this space within, because everything that you say, I'm going to relate to myself, right? So in my life, the expression or communication of either love, openness, honesty, kindness, or let's say even honesty
Yes.
within a family,
Yes.
there can sometimes be certain complexities in which everything is communicated. There are laughs shared, there are memories shared, but the elephant still remains in the room.
Right. There's an elephant under the carpet, like they say.
Yes.
Yes, there's no other masks.
So,
Yeah.
so I was trying to relate it to that.
Nice.
Is the honesty of individuals within a family and people that are within a family that can coexist to some extent,
Yeah.
periodically, share some happiness together, but there are underlying matters which are there and never addressed, and then they can suddenly blow up. And I have experienced it. They can suddenly blow up. By the smallest of flames can come the largest of fires. Because
The gas is compiling, it just needed a small spark to blow up.
and had within those laughs
Yeah.
sometime been attributed to openness, honesty, communication, or exploration of other people's thoughts,
Yeah.
or what is disturbing the other person,
Yeah.
etc. If that time, if even you allocate out of this 1 hour that we are here today,
Yeah.
20 minutes,
Yeah.
if this was what you would spend with your family, as you know, you're an auditor, 1, 2, you live in Dubai, 3, time is short, 4, you get to spend lesser and lesser time with your family. Growing up, I felt like one day was 48 hours. Today, in today's day and age, you feel like one day is 12 hours.
Yeah.
And those things are preserved, I would say, with generationally, the keeping of traditions has eroded.
Yeah.
There was a lot more openness before as well.
Yeah.
But coming back to the point, I mean, that's another topic.
And it's an observation.
We can go about that for hours about how traditions have changed.
Yes.
But if my observation was that I have always felt, and not sometimes, but I am alone in sometimes feeling within my family that at some time was attributed to the multiple things that you addressed today, as far as communication of love is concerned.
Yes.
Right? Because you would only take time out to communicate something like this to someone you love.
Something you see is worth it.
Is worth it.
It's paying you back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if some time was attributed, I believe that would greatly improve familial relationships.
Some people, they might have taken the decision, again, very important notice that I'm not saying this as promoting any idea, I'm just talking as an observation. Some people took the decision to leave or somehow maybe separate, put it in that word, separate themselves in a very generic sense from their environments, maybe because they got fed up from not being able to fit in. One of the guys I know was thinking about his family. He was doing like this thing. I don't know what's wrong with the family, meaning that they're just not, he's doing like this. It's not.
Like that Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
The colors don't match.
It's something.
You're trying to get the colors.
Exactly. If 2 plugs are inside, I don't know what they call it. 2 meters inside, one is still outside. If one is outside, 2 is outside. So, anyways, Now the question remains now, is there something wrong with that or not? Meaning that one might argue, khalas, no need for them to be that close and intimate with each other. Have this intimacy with your wife, with your kids, with your friends, with spread it around with society. Some, for example, with co-workers, some with that trainer you have in the gym. You don't spread them on the society. You don't have the. I'm saying something else. The question is, should we assume that it's something that's implicit within the family relationship that it should be that accepting? I don't know. I don't have an answer, but I feel like what you're saying is something that's, generally speaking, when there's a problem, it should be addressed. Because, like you said, one small thing bursts out in a very violent manner sometimes.
And there is a sorry.
It's okay. I'm observing with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this is the last thing I'm going to say. My wife is outside. I think that it's also another observation of mine is that, and this is another topic altogether. I don't know if you're going to cover it. Maybe we can take some time out next time around. But expectation. There's one word that I think that that should be
that's the key word.
Is I expect this from my family.
Yes.
I expect this from my brother.
Yes.
I expect this from my friend. I expect this from my wife. I expect this from my son. I expect this from my father. The matter of expectation as such has been a big challenge,
yes,
especially for me. I'm an open sharer in life. And then as I grew older and as I've had the Rubik's Cube, that's why I'm sitting here. My home is somewhere else.
Yeah.
My home is in another country. Okay.
You took the decision willfully?
Yes.
It's a willful decision?
It's a willful decision. And so, again, it's not a fractured decision. It is just a willful decision. Where someone wants to explore openness, etc., and say, maybe it would be better if it was done less.
Yes.
And then, if there is space, there is no expectation. Because when you are close, there is an expectation. This has happened. My mother should have done this for me. This has happened. My brother should have stood by me.
Yes.
This has happened. My father should have stood by me.
Yes.
And then then comes the topic, another topic, large topic. Don't keep my wife waiting, but another large topic of from expectation to disappointment.
Oh yes.
Which is grief.
Especially if you have high empathy. If you're a person who have high empathy, who wants to be a servant for the family, but you get shocked maybe more than once, and
then you were doing, but there is no reciprocal thing. And that expectation then leads to then disappointment. Disappointment leads to grief. Grief then leads to, I would say, disassociation.
Yes.
I think if I was to make it cyclical, that's how the cycle would essentially end.
Yes.
But if you did expect something, what if you communicated that expectation as opposed to expect without communication? You see, that's another topic.
Yes.
But we can't get into all of this because,
it's okay.
As I said,
give us 1 minute before you go. What's the highest obstacle from expressing a problem between families? Because I'll give you an example. What's your good name? Muhammad. If you have, God forbid, a problem with your wife, God forbid, inshallah, but I'm sure that you tell her, listen, sweetheart, let's go for a dinner and have a 1 hour talk, then you eat your ice cream and whatever it is, then you can have a 20-minute intimate talk without being so nervous, maybe. And maybe you allow yourself to be nervous because for example, she's going to be accepted and tell you, it's okay, express yourself. This happened because this was that. I will not do it again, for example, or I think you're wrong, but you are expressing even your own purposes, but you might not be able to do that between your family because of, as I said, expectation. If you pull out the emotion there, by the way, it might be only the emotion, by the way. The talk can be done, but maybe you're not allowed, for example, to be angry. And that's something that, by the way, a very important thing, allow some people to get angry. He's a human being. He's not doing it because he's arrogant. It's a different scenario if I come 50 times a day shouting at my father, for example. It's not something that's nice. But if I shout once a month, maybe I'm stressed. I have a nervous system. I'm working. I might be lacking something for a long time. Maybe I'm suppressing certain emotion. Don't be so harsh on me if I express my emotion once upon a time and you call me names, for example. Just an example, by the way. I should not be like this with my son. And I start calling him that you're not polite. You're not respecting. Now he's been respecting me, for example, for years. Now because of one time. This is something that I should be also giving notice on. Allow mistakes to happen. Allow expressions to take place. It's okay. Sometimes, I'm not saying it's right, but sometimes one can say a bad word also. It could happen. I'm saying it could happen. One could also physically act sometimes. But give him 5 minutes. Allow it. If he's a kind person, he will come maybe tearing and hugging him. I'm sorry, I was not myself at that moment. You understand me? So these types of things, I think we should be less harsh on ourselves and judgmental as human beings and understand the human in you. So that's for my commentary. Again, what do you feel that before you go? What do you feel is the reason of the blockages that are there? Is it a conception of religion? Maybe the conception is wrong. Maybe they think that the family dynamic thinks that this is how you're obedient, for example, and good to your relatives. If not, then this need not to be there. Why? Just open to the idea. Maybe the solution is there. Is you go to a sheikh. Salam Alaikum, Sheikh, how are you? Is this right or wrong? This belief has been there 20 years in my family. Please, without being manipulative on the Sheikh also. Okay, that's very important. With factual things coming on, maybe there's a misconception of religion. Maybe.
Misconception of religion and beliefs, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would love to explore this topic more and more. But to answer your question, I would like to take some time to consider, because it's a very interesting question. What is it that has caused that blockage, or has it existed forever and not been noticed? And suddenly I hit an age where I started to notice it, and then it felt awkward to me, and I felt uncomfortable. Or am I the outcast? And is it a norm in my family not to communicate?
Yes.
So these are just some of the things. I'm going to have to excuse myself, unfortunately.
Very nice to meet you. And what's your profession, by the way?
I'm a businessman. I run my own business.
All the best. Have a nice day ahead, and see you again. Any comments, guys? On the thing. Well, I had this theory. Of course, I have no evidence of that. I'm just saying that maybe sometimes the reason is that it might be expectation. It might be also a strong intimacy. Since they are family members, when you see them, the blood rush is so strong because there is too much love, maybe. So with that, if there's an obstacle, then frustration comes up. Meaning that, for example, it's a very attractive environment. It's like it's calling me naturally to express myself. But then again, there's this strong block, and there's this, consistent kind of back and forth with this feeling that it's going to go out, but it does not. It want to go out, but it does not. Because there is something fearful that's there, maybe. There's some fear. Same thing, guys, I'll give you more example. Imagine with me, someone you really love. Let me say, these things can happen in life. A certain leader, for example, or something. How can I put this in place? A certain leader that you like, or certain famous person that you like. This person might be at the same time very lovable and irresistible as a personality, but at the same time, you have this sense that I'm afraid that this person is also very harsh also. So you want to express your love to him, but at the same time, his harshness makes you in this position where you feel frustration. You're frustrated. You understand me? And this happens also with people who have fans, where this fan, he wants to connect to this person, and then he knows that this person is going to be very busy, so he does not answer when he gets depressed and frustrated. The same thing, by the way. Same thing. Famous people, they face this, by the way. And sometimes they're guilty for something that is not their fault. They're just busy. You understand me? So you can have these mixed emotions within the family dynamics. I think it's because of love. That's why some people, maybe it's very hard for them to find a new environment, because that attraction is very strong between family members. Maybe he's depressed. Maybe it's making him not escalate something, but he's still in the environment because there's love. The love is there, and they love me like no one else. That's the feeling that you get. You feel some sort of acceptance, but at the same time there's frustration. Why? That's the question. I don't know. Is it previous incidents? Allah. But that's something that's important, guys. And again, from what I see, the significance of this. If we come up just with this, the significance of this is having balanced personalities in societies. Because, as much as people say, for example, when you go to your work, separate your family life from work, but then again, it does move there. It does have some sort of effect. You're not a machine. And might be that some decisions that you take at work, or some reactions that you do at work because of suppressed emotions at home. Might be that, by the way. So it's very important to have a healthy emotional loving life. It's very important. And also to comment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is generous, and He's capable subhanahu wa ta'ala of giving you love from other channels. Meaning that if someone struggles with his environment, from receiving the type of love that we say that he's expecting, maybe he's getting a love that's a bit conditional, or a bit conditioned in a way that he does not like. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala split the sea into a form of it that has very salty, is it a good word? Salty, not salty, but like ocean. And there is also the river or the type of water or ocean that's less salty, and He has separated between them, subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying they are they're in this position of being close to each other but having a boundary somehow. So same thing, some people, their flavor of love is different. Someone is very harsh when he talks, for example, very intimate, and someone is very soft and kind and tender. They can't maybe make it with each other as being close and intimate, except that if they have certain boundaries, maybe time, you get the element of time they see each other once a week, whatever, that keeps the relationship consistent. So that's it? No. You should be open to the idea that Allah might give you the love that you want from another entity. Maybe within the family, maybe you get a wife that gives you that love, maybe you get the husband that gives you that love, a friend that compensates that part of you which wanted that certain love. But what we're saying is that at least someone builds an environment that's an accepting environment at his house, where he feels that to a certain level, yes, there's respect, but my children, my wife, myself, are conducting ourselves naturally. We are not acting much at home, waiting for the moment to run away to be ourselves outside. That's very important. That's very important. Any comment you have? You can start, by the way. It's fine. Mr. Abdul Hasib, you said silence and love.